Don't check the tweets.
Yeah, I won't.
Why did you want to be a part of this?
Well, when Coach Underwood called, he was very kind for the first time ever over the phone, and he told me what the mission was, and I was aware of the event. I was tickled pink that he asked me to be a part of it. He told me who else was going to be on the panel. We all know somebody was affected by cancer. It was a no-brainer. I committed right away, then checked my schedule. So to hang around these guys on the dais tonight, and you know, they have the big number. I'm hearing between $300,000 and $500,000. I'll take full responsibility for that. Couldn't say no, and happy to be a part of it.
What's a reputation of Champaign for you?
I love coming to Champaign. Number one, it's an hour and 45 minutes from my house. And as an official who traveled a lot, that meant a lot. But I enjoyed, the campus scene. I put a hat on and take advantage of some of the restaurants and local taverns after the game. Love Champaign, love coming here. Wish there was a Marriott property closer to campus, but I guess I'll settle for staying by the mall. So love being in Champaign.
How was Brad officiating here?
Big personality. I am too, so you would think that could potentially clash. But I've known Brad a long time. He's very authentic, and he's one of those coaches that will let you know where he stands, but he actually listened for responses. He asked legitimate questions. I enjoy coaches that the general population would believe are tough. How do you deal with this guy? How do you deal with this guy? I think Coach Underwood's one of those guys that people ask about all over the country. I happen to love those type A personalities. We had some wars, some battles internally, but we're both optimal communicators in my mind. I know that's something that I work towards, but I could tell surface level Coach Underwood was one of those guys. I've got nothing but good things to say about him today.
How would you maybe handle coaches that get a little too involved in the game, maybe out on the court playing defense? Maybe Dan Hurley pushing Cam Spencer to run a play?
You worked it back to Coach Hurley, huh? I think at the end of the day, we don't want coaches to like us as officials, but we definitely want them to respect us. And I think there's a lot of officials that have a line. You don't know where that line's going to be until you get a feel for what the game's bringing, the emotional mood of the fans, of the coaches. A lot of times the fans will dictate the actions of the coaches and vice versa. And either order comes back to us as officials. I didn't have a problem with telling a coach, hey, you're getting close. If this is what you're after, we're heading that way, just letting you know, because I don't want to be accused of you not see it coming. But to be able to tell a coach, hey, get in the box, hey, you're pushing it was no problem. It was a part of basic human communication for me. The biggest thing was when heart rates went up, us as officials, me personally, I wanted to bring my heart rate down, stay cool, calm, and collected, right? Because all the cameras are leaving the 10 players, and they're coming right to that engagement with the coach. There's always a camera on Coach Underwood. We know that. And when I'm talking to him, or any official's talking to him, the camera's right on us. So I always wanted that perception to be one of professionalism, even though what was spoken may not be. You brought up Coach Hurley. Listen, Coach Hurley is going to do what he can get away with. And when officials draw a line in the sand, my guess is he's going to approach that line and he'll back off. Whether it's Coach Hurley or anybody else, the last thing you want is to have to penalize that team. But when it's justified and warranted and good for the game, it's necessary. And that's true for Coach Hurley. It's true for anybody. And I think some coaches know how to manipulate officials. And I mean that in a very positive way. But Coach Underwood earns respect for people when they understand where those lines are. And I think Coach Underwood always knew that with me, and it always made for a great relationship.
What are your thoughts on some technological advances that have changed the way you do your job, like video review, for example?
Yeah, in-game replay. I mean, it's here to stay. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, and the stakeholders have spoken. Human error is unacceptable, and I'll compliment the NCAA for saying, okay, we want to make sure our games end right. But we're not going to have nonstop trips to the monitor during the course of the game. They figured out ways to do things during the media timeouts, but treat the last 2 minutes of the game, including overtime, differently. So I'll give a huge credit to the NCAA for that. I think replay will continue to expand. I think we just saw that with basket interference and goaltending. What's next? Something else I'm sure is coming. The process to get that stuff in place is pretty methodical. But again, it's going to be expanded, I would imagine, and not retracted in any sense. It's not the way I would draw it up. I think out, safe, ball strike, fair foul, we live with it. Same is true in basketball. But again, with the rise in gambling interest and ensuring that games end right, I'm empathetic to it too. Technology off the court in a post-game situation, very important. When we're dealing with rules changes, we don't want to walk out and see plays when we're talking about the cylinder and flopping and all these new rules that have come in over the last 6 to 8 years. You don't want to walk out and officiate those plays for the first time. And I think engaging in video hundreds of times before you step on the court on November 6th is very important, and the best officials do it.
What is retirement look like?
Well, retirement is a subjective word I'm learning. I definitely stepped off the court for good in 2022, but there was a multitude of reasons that I came off the court, and one of those is to run my business, which now I'm not just involved with one sport, I'm involved with 30 sports. I own a software company that's involved in officiating technology, officiating resources. And so I now have an office job, and I love it. So I did the reverse of what most people do. They sit at a desk and they go, I got to get the hell out of here. I got to do something else and get out and experience the world. I did that first. So I'm 48 years old. I feel like I've got many chapters in my book left, and this one's been pretty good.
What was it like to officiate Kofi, Zach Edey? Those type of calls are very highly scrutinized in how they're officiated.
Yeah, I mean, they were monster matchups. I had that exact one a couple times, including right here in Champaign. They were hard. We didn't want to treat, the definition of foul differently because it was two heavyweights going at it. But we did want to make sure that when you hung a foul on either one of those individuals that they were warranted. They showed up on tape. You don't want any cheap fouls on anybody, especially the bigs, especially those two. Brad's got 9 guards. We hang a hand check on a guard, he's probably not going to say anything. We hang a unwarranted foul on Kofi, we're going to hear about it. No problem hearing about it. But we want to say, Coach, you're going to see that on tape. And it was a foul. Let's move on. I happen to hang several fouls on Kofi on that particular game here. But again, we sleep good at night when we go back. Technology, we go back and we take a look at the 14 different angles that are provided to us, and it's justified. But they were monsters, and it's something I'll tell my kids about. I do tell my kids about. But it's not for the faint of heart.